Alright, boys and girls, you probably picked our running backs first, but if not, it's fantasy football time. We're doing our wide receiver rankings, name code with Dustin here. Before we get into this, and it's a pretty long one, so he wants me to go quick with this opening, but we got our app coming out. We're going to submit it mid-July. It's going to be everything a how-to fantasy football. Get your master's degree. It's going to be great. So check out, we'll be certainly updating you on that. And of course, all of our rankings are up on the site, and we'll adjust. It's early July when we're shooting these. FYI.
There will be a link to the app on the homepage once it's up. Tier 1, Calvin Johnson. I don't need to say anything about him. Everyone knows. Guy's amazing.
Tier 2, Demaryius Thomas, Dez Bryant, AJ Green. We have them in that order. All three are freaks of natures. We got Thomas at number 2 simply because of the Peyton Manning effect.
Tier 3, want to talk about Brandon Marshall. We have him at the top of this tier. You'll see his playing partner, Alshon Jeffrey's at the bottom of this tier. That's because Cutler seems to go more towards Marshall than Jeffrey. So we'll see how that works out. But we do think Marshall's going to be a PPR machine again this year. And then Randall Cobb, unfortunate that he had that leg injury last year. He was off to a great start. This guy is just explosive. We're hoping that he comes back and is the Randall Cobb of old, and if he is, you can get great value for him this year.
And it was a broken bone, not a tear. That's big for a comeback. All right, Tier 4, two guys I want to talk about. First one's Andre Johnson. He's getting not a lot of love in drafts, and it's he's got terrible quarterback play. Well, he had terrible quarterbacks last year, caught 109 balls, 1,400 yards, 5 touchdowns. It's very likely he can do that again. Andre Johnson's a beast. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. And then we got Pierre Garçon. And the reason I want to talk about him is he had 113 catches last year. With the addition of Deshaun Jackson, Reed apparently is going to be coming on quite big this year. I see those catches going down, and also Shanahan's gone. So Kyle loved to target his #1 receiver, so that might change around a little bit. So FYI, you're not just drafting Garçon. Don't base it on last year's numbers completely.
Tier 5, I want to talk about the first guy and the last guy in this tier. T.Y. Hilton's the first guy I want to talk about.
Dustin loves him.
I do love him.
Loves him.
Well,
both you want him ranked like 6.
Both of these guys, T.Y. and Torrey Smith, I like
he loves him too.
Receivers that are getting into kind of their 3rd, 4th year, and they've been kind of getting a little bit better every year. Both those guys fit that category. They haven't hit their ceiling yet, I don't think. So, this could be the year where if they're going to jump to elite status, I think this would probably be the year. I'm not saying that they're going to, but I'm saying there's a good chance. So, I like their upside.
He loves them.
I do.
All right, next tier, number 6. Two guys I'm talking about in this one. First one's Percy Harvin. I don't think he's ever had 1,000 yards receiving, but yet every year he gets all the love. Normally I hate guys like that, but God, the film, the tape on this, he makes NFL players look silly. If he actually can stay healthy, be the #1 option out there, you could be getting a great value at this guy where he's going in drafts. And then Deshaun Jackson. Obviously now he's on the Redskins. I do not see repeat numbers whatsoever. He had 82 catches for over 1,300 yards and 9 touchdowns. I don't see those numbers happening in Washington, and no, whenever you get Deshaun, it's up and down, boom or bust. Feels like every week.
Tier 7, still a lot of talent to go around. Wide receivers really deep this year. Cordarrelle Patterson I wanted to talk about, though. I've always liked this guy since we saw what he did in college out there in Tennessee. He's just one of those guys, just get the ball in his hands and see what he can do. He had a decent rookie year. I think he's going to take it to the next level. Going to get a decent amount of rushing yards out of him as well, and kick return yards. So if your league counts those, you want to take a look at that. And Julian Edelman, this guy is a really hard guy to rank because it's New England. You don't necessarily know what they're going to do. Amendola was hurt last year. Shane Vereen was hurt last year. Gronkowski was hurt last year. How is that going to factor in as far as how many targets Edelman's going to get? He's still probably going to be, right around 100 catches probably, but it's a little scary. That's why we got him where we got him ranked.
He did have 151 targets, I think, last year.
It's pretty silly.
It's nuts. Well, but to Dustin's point, nobody else was there. Tier 8, I'm only talking about one guy because this video is already getting long, and that's Golden Tate. Opposite of Calvin Johnson, they've always been looking for a solid #2. Nate Burleson, those guys were not the answer. Golden Tate actually might be. This guy's a stud. He's a young player. I think him in single coverage, we could see big things out of Tate this year. Great late round gamble. Again, to Dustin's point, receivers is deep.
It is deep. Even down in Tier 9, the first guy had 1,000 yards last year. The most unrespected wide receiver in the league, and that's Brian Hartline. He just keeps putting up solid numbers, but it's harder to rank. It's hard to rank him any higher than this because it just doesn't seem like there's much higher upside than what he's doing. So when you're drafting him, expect decent numbers out of him. Just don't expect anything amazing. And then Marvin Jones is a guy that's getting a lot of hype. His 10 touchdowns last year. I think he had 4 in one game, so that's almost where half of them came from. But I mean, the Bengals, they are improving. You know, their offense is pretty exciting. Lots of young players. Marvin Jones is a true wild card, though. You know, some people are going to have him a lot higher than this. Some people might have him lower than this. Take a gamble. Brent doesn't like it.
I am not a fan. All right, I got 2 rookies to talk about in Tier 10. First one's Lee out with Jacksonville. They got nobody. They got nobody out there. There's going to be a lot of garbage time. I think and I said in the rookie show, sneaky. I think he can lead all receivers in catches this year. Just unfortunately, it's going to be for not many yards and not many touchdowns. The next guy that I think is not going to have a ton of catches, but certainly be a red zone and touchdown threat is Mike Evans of Tampa Bay. Him and Vincent Jackson across each other is a huge receiving core. I mean, he didn't run any crazy routes in college, but when you're that big, you don't need to. Run up the middle, box somebody out, catch some touchdowns.
Tier 11, there's 2 very interesting receiver situations this year, and that's Carolina and that's St. Louis. They both have some names, but there's no real guarantee who's going to catch the passes. But you got to think their quarterbacks are going to throw for at least probably 3,000 yards, so someone's got to catch the ball. You know, Kelvin Benjamin, you know, rookie out there with Carolina, he's definitely interesting. He's a guy you're going to want to look at late. And then Tavon Austin, Kenny Britt out there with St. Louis. Again, someone's going to have to catch the ball. When you get late in your draft, these are good guys to target as just gambles, just to see, you know, if you get lucky and pick the guy that ends up being the one that catches passes.
And this is how crazy deep receivers this year. These are 2 great sleepers that I love. The first one is Jordan Matthews of Philly. We actually think there's a good chance he can beat out Riley Cooper. Right now we have Riley ranked ahead of him because, you know, he's returning. Riley had a pretty good year, but this kid in college was ridiculous. Fits perfectly into the scheme. Keep an eye on him. If he ends up starting, he's going to fly up draft boards. And then Marcus Wheaton. I really like this move for the Steelers. You know, they had to well, they didn't have to, but they let Sanders go to Denver to play with Peyton. Wheaton is kind of the guy they've been banking on. He's obviously hasn't really proved it in the NFL yet, but they used a high pick on him a few years ago. I think he was a 3rd rounder. He's just an interesting guy to plug into what Sanders did last year for him.
And like we said, receivers. We said it last year where we felt like it was deep, but it feels even deeper this year. Like it really does. So, you know, keep that in mind when you're doing your pre-draft research and in the draft. You know, you might not have to reach too much. Throw your paper.
Yay.
Yay. Oh. Get on the forums if you got any questions. You want to post your teams. 2 tries or a failure.
Miss it.
See? See?
Yeah.